everyone. Thanks for joining me today. Today we're working with Catharsis Media, the Albuquerque Public Schools, and of course Any Given Child. So thanks to all those folks that make this happen to get all these different cool projects and just creative things that you can do in your home. So my name's Michelle, also known as Shelly Shucker. I'm an artist here in the Albuquerque area and a very passionate art educator. So yeah, it's great to be working with you. And this project today is going to be DIY printmaking. So we're going to do printmaking with things that you have around your house. And then I'm going to show you some ways to use it as a journal cover or folding it into like a cute little journal, kind of like an art object. So we're going to do that. And this would be best 3rd, 5th grade. We are going to have the option to use an X-Acto knife and some scissors. So, you know, it's really up to you how you want to do that. If you're going to use the X-Acto blade, probably better for older people to help you out with it. Or if you're that 6th, 7th, 8th graders, you guys will be fine. So, and we're going to get started by gathering some materials and just talking about a few things that will come up while we're working. So this is a printmaking based project. And with the printmaking, there's ideas of patterns, of overlaying things, and yeah, just using shapes and texture. And then the journal is just a basic bookmaking project, but bookmaking is an art form in and of itself, so you can just, this is just a little intro to that. And so what you're gonna need is paper, of course. So get some paper, and I encourage you to use different types of paper. If you have colored paper, even if you have newspaper, old music sheets. So it's kind of fun to print on top of those, or again, you can just use your plain white paper. And then we will use markers. You can also use some paint. If you have paint, maybe choose 1 or 2 colors. You don't have to use the paint. Markers will do, but if you again want to play with more layering, get some paint. With the paints will come a brush. It could be one of those foam brushes or a bristle brush. So just grab a couple different things to apply the paint with. And then we will be using, I mentioned scissors, an X-Acto blade if you have those things. And then the fun part is gathering all these different things from around your house. DIY, do it yourself. So just see what you have. Some things that I will be using are bubble wrap, you know, from our packaging that we get in the mail, styrofoam, cardboard, caps, wine corks, and just any other things that you can come up with that would be cool to like experiment with printing. And yeah, so go ahead and grab those things, and I'll meet you back and we'll get started. Hey guys, I hope you had some fun gathering some different materials from around your house. We're gonna start by putting them together so that you can use them as stamps and pattern makers. I'm just gonna show you what I've made as far as the stamps, and then kind of how some examples of some that covers that I've already made, and then we'll kind of go all in between that. So here's this little foam thing. This is my initial M that I cut out of styrofoam. These aren't actually stamps that someone gave me, and these are like little tiles that they put that foam stuff on. This was the foam that has the sticky stuff on the back that you can cut, but this was such a cool idea. And so I always keep these with my stamps, and I made something very similar with a piece of cardboard, and I cut out these little triangles with styrofoam and glued those on. I apologize, I did not mention the glue when I was going over the materials, but if you do have a glue stick or Elmer's glue and you want to create something like this, the glue will come in handy. One other fun thing that I tried with the glue is I took a piece of string and I wound it around the cork, glued the cork and wound the string around it. And then here you can see how I've used the roller thing that I made right there with the string, my M's to make a pattern, and some of the other ones like dotting the end of a cork, and just different things that I'll go through as when I'll show you how I use them when we get started. And so here's an example of one that I made that I didn't fold, and as you can see, it was like a reused piece of paper from some old math project or math assignment. And this one that I've made previously. And you can see how once the paint was dry, I go back in with marker and kind of embellish it. So I'll show you that. And then, for example, here's a piece of paper that I printed, and then I'm going to go through how I folded it into a little book. And so you have lots of options of how you want to take this project. So let's just get started. I also like to have two pieces of paper out so I can, kind of work on two at the same time. But before we get started with that, let's cut out some pieces from styrofoam and glue them onto the cardboard. So styrofoam, I save it. I save all of the materials that would otherwise be garbage, and I save them, and then I reuse them for stuff like this. So hopefully you have some styrofoam around. I know it kind of is like not the best material for the environment, but at least we can reuse it. So I have a sharp X-Acto blade right here, and so I'm just gonna cut out a piece so that it's easy for me to work with. And look, it used to be a palette, and then I'm still going to reuse it as something else. So I'll show two different things with this. Whenever you are going to cut with a X-Acto, I did that one differently because it was like popped up, but whenever I'm going to cut down on a table, I'm going to put a piece of cardboard. And as you can see, I also put a piece of newspaper down. And so just getting, things ready to not make a huge mess. And if you do, you're covered. And then to protect the table. So a piece of cardboard underneath. So first I'm going to cut this in half. And then I'm going to cut out, let's see, I'll make like a little plus sign kind of cross thing. And sometimes I'll go over the line a couple times before I pop it out. So there's one. And then the cool thing is, you can use the cutouts from your shape. So it's like a positive and negative shape that can be used. So this is my cross shape. I'm actually going to cut it so it's like going to be used more as like an X maybe. So here's that one. And then I have all these little other shapes that maybe I'll use, maybe I won't, but I'll put those on the side, keep all my stamps in one area. And then another technique that you can use with the styrofoam is like drawing into it. So let's say I'm going to make a circle. So I'm kind of just carving with the blade. This is where you could write your name, your initials, but just remember whenever you print something, it's going to be the opposite. We don't really have to think about it with a circle. But let's say if I wanted to do a K, I'm going to put it backwards. I'm not sure if that's going to be right. Oh, K. No, it would have to be with the K, the line here. So let me try that again. Okay, so then when I print it, it will say okay. And that's the thing. I'm never hard on myself about making mistakes when I'm doing art because it's just a fun experiment. So then we'll put this to the side, the X to the side, and then let's see, anything else? There's like tin foil, and then with my bubble wrap, and here's where I'll use my scissors. So with the bubble wrap, you can also create a shape if you'd like. And so I created like a wave kind of shape. So I'll just go on the other side. Maybe this will be kind of like a serpent. And then finally, I'm going to use a piece of cardboard and then I'll glue my X on it. And then this will be cool. I'll have a two-sided. I already have my triangles, and then I'll have an X on the other side. And these are fun. You can keep them for a long time. Like I said, I have a little bin in my studio where I keep all of my printmaking, all of my stamp stuff together. So, and then I share them with other people because they're super fun. They're fun to also like, I'm going to send this to my mom. I'm going to make one and like use it in the little package. So they're just kind of fun little cards. So then I'm just gonna glue my X on the little piece of cardboard. So then let's get started and we'll just experiment. And that's why I have 2 pieces of paper out, so I can just build up 2 pieces of paper at the same time. And first I will get I always try and keep like my tools organized, especially someone like me, like stuff goes everywhere. And so I just take a little time to reorganize before I get started. And then I'm gonna use 2 colors. I think I'll do black and red today. And you just need like a tiny, tiny bit. So a container, you could use a piece of styrofoam. You could put your paint on a piece of cardboard, because we're just gonna use a little bit. So there's just a teenswer, and then I'll put a little red just next to it. So I have 2 colors in my little palette. So those are all ready to go, and then I have 2 different types of brushes, and then my markers. So I'm gonna actually start with the markers. So I'm gonna put down like a dry layer of markers, and then I'll print on top of it with the wet, with the paint. So I've found that the bubble wrap and the marker works really good. It's a good combination. And so I'm just gonna cover the styrofoam, and this is why it's nice to have a piece of newspaper or some kind of paper down, so you can kind of go off the edge and not worry about it. So if you ever need to pause during this video or whenever you're making art, just to kind of be like, oh, I need to get newspaper or a paper towel, just go ahead, pause, and then just join me back. And so then I'm just gonna press this. And then obviously the second time we print, it's gonna be lighter and then lighter. But here I got, well, 2 at least good rows of the bubble wrap. And let's see what else. So then I'll do this piece that I made before. This is just a piece of styrofoam that I carved into. And then again, looks like I used red before, so I'll kind of stick with that same color family. Oops. And let's see, I'm not sure how this is going to turn out on the yellow paper, but we'll find out. And the thing about printmaking is sometimes we're just building up texture, so it doesn't have to be, you know, perfect or anything. It's just kind of building up a background. So that one's just barely starting to come through. I'll try my, I don't know what this thing came from. Maybe like a floaty thing from the pool, I'm not really sure. Let's see. And then I'm going to do, this is a shape I cut out previously, and sometimes it's cool when you have the styrofoam with the lettering on it. That can be kind of a fun random pattern that shows up. And so here I'm just experimenting, building things up, that overlapping and layering. And just keep going. So yeah, this takes probably 10-15 minutes to create your pattern pages. But we will try some paint, which is going to be like opaque and heavier, and really start to bring it to life, bring it together. But as you can see, I'm kind of working back and forth on each one. Let's try out the stamper. And here's something else too with the cork. If you feel comfortable with your X-Acto knife, you can dig out, like I tried to dig out like a little heart shape with my X-Acto knife. and you just carve right into it. And then you'll have like a little heart shape. And you can think about when you're doing yours, this one is kind of starting to be symmetrical. Just thinking about how the pattern is going to come together. And just remember, you can keep it as a flat piece of art or you can fold it up. Okay, so now we're going to move on to adding some paint. So I am going to start with my little foam brush, and I'm going to use, let's see, I'll start with this X that I made. And just a little tiny bit of paint. You don't need a lot at all, because if you squish it when it has a lot of paint on, it's like, and you don't get to see your shape. So I'm just gonna paint it on real light. And you can see the paint really pops compared to the marker, but both are good. And then these are called the ghost prints. After you print it one time, the one right after it, the ones after, those are called ghost prints. And you can play around with that too. So I'm gonna flip flop and do my darkest one here, lighter, and lightest. So there's that one. And then thinking about too, I'm gonna do my M. I'm gonna do black on this one again, and then just painting it. So you can see how when you do put your cardboard underneath, when we glue it, it's a little bit easier to manage. But this one I did not do that because you don't have to. So then I have that one all painted up. And I'm just gonna switch it. And just like I did in that example, kind of making a shape of them being together. That one's cool. And I'll just do one. Okay, and then we will experiment with just some dots. This is one of my favorite things, circles. And so I'm gonna do red. And just load it up. And really you can go on filling your page for, like I said, however long you want until you feel satisfied with it. I think they look more and more interesting the more layers that you put on it. So you can just like keep working on it and then take a break and come back, because it does dry fairly quickly because there's such thin layers of paint. But I do want to show you before we do the folding just kind of how this turned out. So what I did again is I took a plain piece, a plain cork, and then I put my glue on it. And first I'll cut my string. So string or yarn, and then I just coated the cork with my glue. And then just wrap it. And then you'll have kind of like a track. And then set it aside and let it dry for a little bit before you use it. But this is one that is already dried. And so let's see, we'll make some black tracks. Oops. And just getting it all on here and rolling it out. This is actually one of my favorite ones, and it's true, you get a little paint on your hands, but I don't mind, I like it. And then again, you can do this one a few times. Okay, like I'm gonna get into this. So just keeping myself organized a little bit here. Wow, this one is really cool. So yeah, and if you don't have corks, you can use like a bottle. You can use a paper towel roll, something like that. and create a roller like that. And you could even take that farther, which is, I never even thought about this, but it's such a cool idea, is that you could take these different little styrofoam shapes and glue them onto your paper towel roll and roll it out like that. Like, I'm getting all excited just thinking about it. So yay. Okay, so yeah, just keep building this up. Let's see, is there any other ones we want to try? I think, you know, just keep going until you feel like it's finished. And then if you would like to add to it, once it's dry-ish, then you can go ahead and, of course, you can add anything that you want. But I like to spend sometimes a little time just with my drawing materials, maybe filling in, adding some more design, some more texture. And so we're just like mixed media, mixing it up between the printing and markers, pencils, whatever. You know, you can see some of these. You can go on and on. This one's really cool. This one we actually used a thing from nature, like a piece of a tree, a branch of a tree, a type of, I think it was a pinon or something. But anyways, lots of ways that you can take it. This one's monochromatic, it's all green. So if you enjoyed making these, just make a whole bunch. They make super good gifts for people. And so I'm going to show you now how, yeah, I turned this one, just folded it in half, and you can see I used lots of the bubble wrap to fill in the background. And yeah, I even like punched out a couple holes in it. So I just really turned it into like a really cool journal cover. And then you can just put the white paper inside and fold it up, just like a book. And maybe another time I'll do one where I show how to sew a little binding up, but you could do staples, you could just wrap a string around the inside of it, or try to figure out the this binding. I really wanted to show you a simple one to make it just accessible for everybody too, is how to fold these little mini books. As you can see, I have a bunch of them. And so once your paper is dry, and we're gonna fold it up, so I'll just do this one. So the paper will be like this. And when I talk about folding something like a hot dog, it means folding it long ways like this. And then when I talk about folding something like a hamburger, this is the way it is. So we have hot dog and hamburger folding. So we have our paper. Okay, so our first fold is going to be hot dog bun, like this. And we're gonna keep it like this, and then we're gonna do our hamburger bun. So I'm gonna fold it down like that. And each time when you fold it, you can just kind of make a nice crease. Even put it down. And then one more hamburger down. So this is essentially the shape of the book, but it's an accordion, so we want it to have pages. And so then we're going to open it back up, and then we're going to fold it like hamburger, down like that. And so here's where you can use scissors or you can use your hands. What we're going to do is, so this is important, is that this crease, this fold, is where we're going to cut down into. And so we're going to cut along this midline down to the middle point. There's an intersection here, kind of like a cross. We're going to cut right down to here. So you can, if you're using scissors, you can cut to right here, which I'll start, but I'm also going to show you, it's really easy. You can also just use your hands and do it very gently down, and we're going to stop right there at the middle. Okay, and then we open back up, and you see like this little beak or this little peephole. So that's there. We're gonna hot dog fold, and then there's that little opening. That little opening. We're gonna push it together, and so it's kind of like an X or a star, and then we just bring that together. So you have something like this, and you fold it all together. And what that does is it gives you little cute pages. And so then again, you can go in there and you could add another stamp, or you can just write, say you're gonna send it like me to somebody I love. I'll just put, hi, I love you. And you can just add your fun little notes in here, maybe cut something out and add little pictures in there. And it's just meant to be this cute little thing that makes people happy. And yeah. And so just a little moment about this is that there's things in the art world that are called art objects. And that's the thing about art, is that sometimes we always want things to be functional, or our culture's like, it has to have a function. And so this can have a little function, but it can also be this just sweet little object that is like sitting on a shelf that people be like, oh, that's cool, that's curious. And that's something that's interesting and important about art, is sometimes we make art because it's the act of making art. It's not that it has to be something that will be useful. So make as many of these as you want. Like, I have tons of them, and they're like all over my house, and sometimes I have them like hanging and they're clipped along a shelf, and they're just cute and fun. So yeah, thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy making more of these. Okay, so hey you guys, we had so much fun. I hope you made some really cool papers and found some ways to use them. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. And thanks again. We'll see you next time.